it's the Stitches. This is the second time I'm filming this video. Will it record this time? Let's hope. So today's video is about a question that I've gotten before, that other people in the sustainability community have gotten before, and it's not a pleasant one or an easy one or one that's even all that fun to wrap your brain around, but let's get into it. So the question is, can you live 100% ethically and sustainably? Can you be like 100% super person, do everything? And the answer to that is unfortunately no. And we'll get into that. I know this isn't the answer you probably wanted from me, but it's the honest one. Let's use my Etsy shop as just a rough example. So at this point, everything that's in my Etsy shop is upcycled, thrifted clothing. I would like to expand and do more things, but for right now, that's what it is. All of my button components are made in the USA. All of my paper and everything is made in the USA. I do my own printing, so I don't have outsourced printing. And I basically make sure that everything is as ethical as I can possibly make it for my Etsy shop, because I don't want to have unethical products in my shop at really any point. The dye process that I created, I made with the intention of using as little water as possible, and I also use completely 100% non-toxic dyes so that I can have as little environmental impact as I possibly can. And I'm not gonna stop doing any of these things. If anything, I feel like I do have room for improvement. None of these things, unfortunately, will change the fact that I live on stolen land. The area that I live in belongs to, rightfully, the Nez Perce and Yakama nations, respectively. And my mere presence here is caused by centuries of white imperialism. And that's about as unethical as you can possibly get. The problem isn't that there are particular aspects of our capitalist system that are broken. The problem is that it's been corrupt since the very beginning. It was set up to be corrupt, it was started by corrupt people, and now we're dealing with the fallout of that. Because of this, there's corruption at literally every level of the system. If you scratch at the surface hard enough, you will find some sort of controversy. So ideally, the best way to be as sustainable as possible is to interact with capitalism as little as possible. But, you know, that's just how our society is built. You can't opt out of capitalism, that's just how it is. You can't opt out of money and land rights and any of that. If you interact with a landowner, if you rent, then you are a part of capitalism. It's not about changing the world all by yourself, it's about doing your part. Like, 90% of the pollution has been created by, like, 3 companies. I'll get more into, like, how corporations affect the world in other videos, but in this one, I just kind of want to make it clear that corporations are the reason that we have climate change. Corporations are the reason that we have pollution and unchecked garbage just everywhere. Corporations are the reason we package things in single-use plastics. The state of the world is not the fault of the individual consumer, it's the fault of these big companies that made those decisions, that made the decision to be unethical for the pursuit of profit. It is these corporations that favored profit over doing the right thing that we are now having to fight against. And obviously, they're not going to change just by themselves. Consumers do need to put pressure on them to change, but this doesn't happen overnight. This is a big problem that has been working its way to this point for hundreds of years. It's not going to change overnight, and it can't be changed by a small group of people doing individual choices. Obviously, you should try to spend your money wisely and you should be voting with your dollar, but the real change is going to be caused by legislation and culture change. And these things don't happen overnight. They take time, and they take millions of people to be in on it together. So obviously we should continue to educate, we should continue to show people what's happening so that they do care, so that we can get enough people that we can pressure corporations into change. But if you're an individual person and you're just trying to live your life, you shouldn't let the fact that these things are happening weigh you down. If you try to fight every single battle, if you try to take on everything at once, you're just gonna feel very overwhelmed and you're gonna feel just hopeless. Because when it is just one or two people trying to change this big, huge thing, it does seem and feel very hopeless. It's not about changing the world by yourself. Again, it's about doing your part. Obviously, do what you can. Obviously, vote and, spread the word, educate other people whenever you have the opportunity to. But you should also remember that individual people can only do so much. Individual people can't be perfect, and individual people are going to make mistakes. Your favorite influencer is inadvertently going to wind up with Forever 21 in their closet. Your favorite political speaker is probably still at some point going to wind up with some plastic straws. That's just the nature of the game right now. Obviously, this is something that we need to change and that we need to try to change. And we need to put ourselves in positions where we can make these decisions. Electing people who will fight for climate change, voting for bills that will reduce carbon emissions. But, if you see somebody who's making a video on YouTube and they wind up with a little bit of plastic on their produce, those aren't the people that you should be angry at. You should be angry at the people who chose to package that produce in plastic in the first place. You should be angry at the big corporations that put consumers in this position where we do have to make these big changes to our lifestyles just to not destroy the planet. We should be directing our anger towards the actual problem, because that's how we're going to find actual solutions, rather than, say, calling out individual influencers, because let's face it, that influencer can't realistically do anything. Be mad at politicians who aren't fighting climate change. Be mad at scientists who are trying to say that climate change isn't real. Be mad at corporations that are ruining the planet for profit because apparently money is more important than air and water. Be mad at those people. Don't be mad at the individual consumer, and don't be mad at yourself, because it's not the consumer's fault, it's the corporation's fault, and that is where we need to be focusing our attention. So that's really all I want to say in this video. Hopefully it wasn't too preachy, but yeah, I just want everybody to know that, plastic straws are bad, but you shouldn't beat yourself up for occasionally using one. And yeah, Forever 21 and H&M are ruining the planet, but if that's literally all you can afford, then that's all you can afford, and that's fine, and that's not your fault. It's not your fault. So, with that, I hope everybody has a good day. I hope everybody, thinks about being a little bit gentler with themselves when it comes to sustainability and ethics, because, you're limited by your choices. And I will see you all next time. Bye!